Welcome to From a Southside Point of View. I'm here as always with my co-host Josh Nelson. Josh, man, how's it going?
It is going, and last week's episode was longer than the actual chapter that we watched. I have a feeling, Chorizy, this is going to be the same way. So how are you feeling after chapter 6 of Book of Boba
I'm
Fett?
I'm feeling really good, man. I'm worried a little bit about my voice. I was out last night. My band played a show. I don't sing. It's an instrumental band, but being out and like yelling to people while we're watching live bands, we'll see how much voice I have left. But I'm willing to give all of the voice to this episode because man, I really enjoyed this chapter and like I don't know, man. I'm getting more and more interested in what's going to happen in this final episode because there's so much. And it's funny, like you hear a lot of like, how are they going to tie this all up? But like
Right.
every show that like Disney's been doing has pretty much been able to do that, right? Like, and so I feel like they're gonna tie it all up. They pay people a lot of money to write the stories and tie these things up at the end. So I'm just really interested to see how it all comes together, and that's some of what we'll talk about today. I did want to get into kind of to start things off, talking about the show, and I think something that people are a little bit upset with. And I know Josh, you wanted to talk about this, so let me just add this into the stream here. And so, uh, there wasn't a ton of Boba Fett in this. In fact, he's just in there for a moment, and now this is the second episode in a row, and
Mhm.
people are not that happy about this. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on this?
I think the last 2 episodes of this show have been some of the best Star Wars content ever. And I think it is an expectations thing that in the first 4 episodes, or I should say chapters of this series, it is very clear that this is a show about Boba Fett and using the Bacta tank to do flashback scenes. We spoke about those scenes in great length, and I really enjoyed those scenes. I still love chapter 2. I still think it might be one of the best episodes of this entire season that we are witnessing. But for those that are like, oh, hard pass or hard disagree, man, this is the Book of Boba Fett. These 2 episodes have nothing to do with Boba Fett. It has everything to do with Star Wars, though. And in the universe building that these storytellers are trying to push forward post Return of the Jedi and pre Force Awakens, you need these kind of episodes because you can't tease in chapter 4 and play Din's music. And we talked about that, oh, we're going to see Din and he's just going to magically appear. And oh, hey guys, what's up? What have you been up to? Nothing. All right, let's go fight the Pike Syndicate. Like, is that what people were expecting in chapter 5? It's just, oh, here are all these new faces, old faces that we know that are going to help out Boba Fett against the Pike Syndicate. Instead, you have Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni pushing the universe forward. And Boba Fett is part of this universe. And I think in chapter 7, we're going to find out how this all ties in and how Boba Fett is tied into. And something that I've even suggested, I think it was our 3rd episode after chapter 3, that the Pike Syndicate is working with someone above them to
Right.
do what they are doing. And that's what ties in Ahsoka and her television series that'll be coming up. It sounds like 2023, and possibly Grogu and Luke Skywalker. So I get, if your expectation was this is going to be the Goodfellas of Star Wars, the Star Wars version of Goodfellas, I can understand why you are disappointed in chapters 5 and 6. But if you are a Star Wars fan, you have to absolutely love what we have seen the last 2 episodes. And I'm going to keep banging this drum. This is some of the best Star Wars content that we've ever seen in these last 2 chapters.
Josh, you mentioned the Goodfellas thing, and I think it's actually a little bit more like a different gangster show, which is Boardwalk Empire, because they did
Mm.
have these kind of long tangents on other characters, right? And because they kind of all come back to the main character, and one of the weird things that show did, and I believe it was because of like someone being sick, I believe, but like they killed off one of the main characters very early in the show, like in the second season or something. And then his name continued to be in the opening credits, right? Even like in the next seasons. And then they pay it off in the end. And like I kind of feel like that this show's a little bit like that as well. And like when you go back and watch it in its entirety, it doesn't feel disjointed at all. Even if you had like entire episodes of like Michael Shannon's character in that show, right?
Mhm.
Like in the whole, it's just such an awesome story, and it just kind of like has all these different people playing parts. And in Boba Fett's case, he's connected to all of these people that are in this show. I mean, him and Luke are connected, not in a great way. Like, I don't think Luke would be like, "Oh yeah, I love this guy. He used to work for my dad." So like, so I think that this is all still connected, but I think the way I was thinking about it is, and we've talked about this before, like those last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, like you you can't watch one of those episodes. You sit down, you're like, I'm just going to check out this one episode because I want to see something. And you're like, I got to watch all 4 of these, and you're watching a movie that was put at the end of the Clone Wars. It's a great movie, and I watch it more than I probably should. I probably should do work every once in a while, but I choose to watch that instead. And so I think if they pay it off well in this last episode, this kind of all goes away, because when you go back and you watch it, you're going to watch episode 1 through 7 or chapter 1 through 7 of the show, and you're not really going to think about that this 45 minutes didn't have as much Boba Fett in it as you would think with the title of the show.
Right. And again, the situation that Boba Fett is in, and we'll get more in details as far as how this chapter lays out. He's fighting the Pike Syndicate. There is no way Boba Fett's going to win this fight with what he's got on hand.
Right.
The Pike Syndicate is a wide expansion. They have their hands in just not Tatooine, many planets. And if you think you defeat them on Tatooine, that they're not going to come back. We have seen it a number of times already in this series that, oh, you beat them at the train, they're going to come back and they're going to wipe out your entire tribe. Oh, you stopped 4 of our guys in the opening scene on a spice deal. We're going to tell our bosses and we're going to go send a bounty hunter to try to kill you. You don't cross the Pike Syndicate, and rarely do you ever survive. And go ahead,
Josh. I think this is relatable to the real world, though, right? Because like if you think about the Pikes, they are a drug cartel, right? That's what the Pikes are. And if you think about that in real life, if famously said by The Onion, drugs won the war on drugs, right? Like, so I mean, like there's a lot that you can just like look at this and go like, these guys are running drugs through this town. One guy's going to try and stop them. That it's not going to work. It's just, it's not going to work, right? Like it's going to end badly for that guy. So I think that that's a very relatable story. Even if you don't watch Star Wars, you would see this group and be like, yeah, I don't want to mess with them.
Yeah. So again, the whole premise here of what has gone down the last 2 chapters, I just feel like Star Wars fans should be thrilled because, man, we are going, I think, in a very exciting direction with these characters. It does also make me more angry about the new trilogy because The Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and The Force Awakens continue to age poorly. And we all make mistakes in life. And I think Kathleen Kennedy understands that she made a mistake on managing those 3 movies and is making it up with what we are seeing now with the storytelling from Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And we've touched on this a couple of times. I think in this episode, they are planting the seeds on how they could possibly connect Luke's transformation from what we remember of him in Return of the Jedi to what we see of him again in The Last Jedi.
So, I mean, we're going to get into Luke in a little bit, but Luke's a dick. And I think we're going to, I'll back that up a little bit later. But I kind of feel where all of this is like, I'm still going to be a fan of The Last Jedi, Josh. We're going to fight about this eventually. It will come to fisticuffs with drunk in the White Sox parking lot, me and you throwing blows over Last Jedi. It's going to be one of the greatest moments in White Sox and Star Wars history. Maybe we should do that Star Wars night. That's a great idea. We're going to fight on the pitcher's mound for Star Wars night over Last Jedi. But so, you know, you were mentioning the kind of one guy going against the syndicate, and let's talk about one of the people that has done that. Cobb Vanth comes back in this episode, and man, is there a more handsome man on earth than Timothy Oliphant? Because I mean, like, this guy is like, I mean, like, he's like old school Clint Eastwood, where like you're just like, this guy's got a big scar on the side of his head. He's all dirty and dusty and shit, and you're just like, perfect hair, extremely good looking. I don't know how he does it, but the character is fantastic. What did you think about him coming back into this world?
So Timothy Oliphant, he just crushes this character, and I love the way that he's handling as far as his character, this aged marshal of the wild, wild west of Tatooine. There has been some articles of the comic book writers for Star Wars who wrote about Cobb Vanth not liking this portrayal of Timothy Oliphant. I know you don't usually want to go arguing with writers about depiction when it comes to plays and movies and television shows. I'm sorry, writers. This is a much better portrayal than you were setting out for. And please continue sticking with this, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, because I think it's also perfect. Speaking of the handsome scale with Timothy Oliphant, compare him to present day Pierce Bronson. And they are very similar looking now.
Yeah, they are. Similar. They are. And you know what? They could both be James Bond for all I care. They're fantastic. Like, I mean, I think though in this kind of, we'll talk about the opening scene because we're going to get back to Cobb Vanth and Freetown later. But like the opening scene, I've watched it multiple times now, and I continue to try and tell, does he kill two people with one shot? I think he kills two Pikes with his first shot. Like, it goes to show how badass he is, which makes the later stuff in this episode even more incredible and more exciting. So like, I just love that start. And I kind of want to know a little bit more about his backstory, right? Because he's in the books, he's kind of out of nowhere. You know, he comes in with Boba's armor, and that's just how he kind of becomes the marshal of that town. But there's obviously something else to this character. Like, you're not just like incredibly good at dueling out of nowhere. So like, I don't think they're going to do this in a show, but I would love if they did, you know, maybe a comic or a book or something about him.
We may get it in the next chapter. Would you be against Din getting word that Cobb got shot, picking up Cobb, taking him to Boba Fett's Bacta tank, and we getting some type of backstory on Cobb Vanth that maybe he was an ex-bounty hunter? And I know he's trying to catch the name of the stranger that's walking across the desert for confirmation, but I think Cobb knows who he is looking at in that scene at the end of the episode. And we'll definitely get more in depth as far as that ending scene. But with this scene, I just love the way that it was handled, because if you watch Narcos or any type of even old westerns as well, the spaghetti westerns that it's like an homage. Like even in present day, like here is some type of police figure out in the Wild West, out in the boonies. I just killed 3 of your friends. I need you to think it through. That's a great line. Think it through. And giving them the option and realizing that, like in present day, like cocaine, if you see a couple blocks of cocaine on the top of a car, or you think so, but they're in a duffel bag and you don't know what's in the duffel bag. So no one's broke any laws yet, but you have a sneaky suspicion what's in the duffel bag. And the guy says, this is worth more than your town. And be like, well, then I guess I can retire. And just that scene where he kicks over the chest and lets the spice flow out. I think, especially in present day and in other forms of media, sometimes we've seen the cops be corrupt and be like, well, this is a
Right.
money-making opportunity. But you see Cobb Vanth kick the spice over and it just blows into the sand dust. And what I love about, as far as that scene, it depicts on what Vanth is truly on. And even though things are tough in town, this is not the route that they're going to go. That they are
Right.
very anti against spice. So they are very anti against what the syndicate is doing, and quickly displays another ally that maybe Boba Fett can count on.
Yeah, I like, I agree. And I think that scene there where he kicks over the spice is kind of why I want to see a little bit more of his backstory. But outside of this, I think, to your earlier point about putting him in the back of the tank and having some memories, I like that, but I don't think that will fit properly. He needs to be more of a Clint Eastwood Man Without a Name type of character in this, just so that, like, whatever he does, like if he comes back all shot up and like still, is like this awesome shot and like does all this stuff, like you need to just accept that, right? Like mentally you're going to have to just accept that, like, he's overcome this. So I think giving him any backstory could hurt that in this episodes. But I still want to know why a man would, like, if like you said, if that was like a big duffel bag of cocaine, I'm going more True Romance than I'm going kicking that thing over. I'm not flushing it down the toilet like Karen Hill. I'm taking it to LA and finding a producer that wants to buy, all this Dr. Zhivago I've got.
Always looking for a profit. But after this
Hey,
scene,
man.
though, so I think they, it's just as far as the storytelling, I like how you go from kicking over the spice and watching it blow into the dust to Din arriving to this planet. Now, I still don't know the name of this planet. What planet is Din flying into?
So I don't think they say,
Right.
but
Okay.
I mean, the assumption is that this is where Luke's temple is, where, where Kylo Ren, Ben Solo,
Mhm.
burns everything down. So I think it's that place. And we're seeing the very beginning of it. You're about almost 20 years prior to Ben burning the place down. And which is why it's going to look different, right? Like, and then but you're only, I think, 5 or 6 years from Ben showing up there. So this is well before Ben Solo is there, and Luke is now training Grogu. And my question to you, Josh, is Luke actually ready to train someone?
No. So in the same way that Anakin Skywalker was also not ready to train Ahsoka Tano in the Clone Wars, right? The Jedi were desperate for more advanced, let's call it, soldiers during the Clone
Yeah.
Wars. And that's why Anakin got promoted and he gets a Padawan. And I know that's a bit confusing for those that don't watch the Clone Wars, the animated series, and then try to watch Revenge of the Sith, because everyone still thinks that Anakin is Obi-Wan Kenobi's Padawan. And there's a little bit of disconnect there, and that the Clone Wars retcons it. But I think they do it in the right direction, the Clone Wars, compared to as far as the movie. It's for Anakin to get promoted and to have his own Padawan. Obviously, it was produced after the movie, so they could do that. But for Luke to be ready, I mean, Luke didn't even go through formal training. Like, he never
Right.
went to a Jedi Academy. All he's got is a few lessons in his time spent in Dagobah with Yoda, and then he leaves Yoda to go to the Cloud City, and then
Get
we
his
don't
hand cut off.
gets his hand cut off. Yep, gets his ass kicked by his dad, and then we don't really see him have further training in Return the Jedi. When he goes back, Yoda's passing away, and he gets a couple of lessons. But I would, Luke is a very powerful Jedi, but he's not a formally trained Jedi.
Right.
So he, in no way, Chorizy, is he ready to teach Grogu. And I don't know about you, but that's why I really enjoyed the interaction with him and Ahsoka. So what do you think Ahsoka meant by when he was questioning and watching Grogu jump from rock against the training droid? What do you think Ahsoka meant by saying that you're so much like your father?
So I'm a little confused here because I grabbed the screenshot because I wanted to make sure that I heard this right.
Mm-hmm.
She just says so much like your father. I'm not sure she's talking about Luke. I think she might be talking about Grogu, and that Grogu is has like so much attachment to the Mandalorian, and that his mind and his heart are not really in becoming a Jedi. Like that's just something that everybody's always wanted him to be because he's so in tune with the Force. And this could come so easy to him, and he could be such a great Jedi. Luke's looking at him like, I know Yoda. And in fact, that's all he knows about being a Jedi is like the 4 lines that Yoda ever told him, because he's repeating those through the episode. And he's like, here's all the lessons I know. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's looking at Grogu kind of like, you're going to be the next Yoda, just like, the Jedi were looking at Anakin like, you're going to bring balance to the Force, right? Like, you're this special thing and you need to be a Jedi. And I don't care how much we have to jam it down your throat. And I don't care how much you're in love with Padme. None of that is important. You have to do this. And I think Ahsoka is given a little bit of a warning there of Grogu's attached to this person. If you force this on him, this could go very badly for you. Just like it went very badly with Anakin. So I'm not sure she was talking about Luke. Now, she might be. And what do you think if she is talking to Luke, where is she going with that line?
I think she's going from her training, learning under Anakin Skywalker. Because Anakin would get frustrated with Ahsoka, especially during the Clone Wars, and would question, even trying to get advice from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, I don't know if Ahsoka's heart is being in a Jedi. Guess what we find out? It's really not, especially when you doubt her or you accuse her of a crime that she does not commit. And she leaves the Jedi Order. She practices as far as the religion, but she is not a Jedi Knight. And she never does become one, even with Anakin's last push by giving her new lightsabers before she fights Maul at the end of Clone Wars. So that's how I looked at it, that you're so much like your father, that you face a little frustration that someone is not learning as quickly as you want them to, or as quickly as you can learn. So you grow impatient. So that's why you're so much like your father. And that is true. I'm glad that she pointed that out. Luke Skywalker shares the same impatience as his father, Anakin Skywalker, did. I also think in this scene, you have a little bit of foreshadowing. And I think this is something that we're going to consistently see in upcoming content produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and try to, I wouldn't say retcon, but in their attempts to improve as far as the trilogy. And all right, so you have the line from Ahsoka to Luke, sometimes the student guides the master. Okay. There is foreshadowing in that, and Rey guides Luke, much older, especially in The Last Jedi. But Luke doesn't realize that until who tells him? Yoda. Ghost Yoda tells him. And that's like the final lesson that Luke realizes is him being a Jedi Master, trying to train even some lessons to someone that can wield the Force, and doesn't realize it until it's too late. It's also a rehash that teaching Ahsoka taught a lot about being a Jedi for Anakin. That while he was supposed to train Ahsoka to become a Jedi Knight, during this process, Anakin learned more about what it is to become a Jedi, training Ahsoka. And that's also something that Obi-Wan Kenobi did tell Anakin along the way, that your training never really stops. So I like that. And I also like the trust your instincts as she kind of walks away and ends that conversation. I want to know. So this is who I think that this is foreshadowing. This is foreshadowing Ben and Kylo Ren. That Luke should have trusted his instincts when it came to training Ben, and he did not. So I think we're going to consistently see this as long as we continue to see Luke Skywalker in these new shows on Disney Plus, that we're going to have more breadcrumbs that's going to evolve Luke Skywalker to the point of when we see Luke Skywalker again in The Last Jedi. And I am wondering if it is necessary, maybe in 3 to 4 years, that we have a Luke Skywalker Disney Plus show where you do see a young Ben Solo and Luke training Ben Solo. So you can have that, you could bridge that connection, and that would allow The Last Jedi to age better. I don't know if they could fix Rey. I don't think they could fix Rey, but at least they could fix Ben and the way that Luke, because it's very jarring for Force Awakens to The Last Jedi, as far as the end of Force Awakens to the beginning of The Last Jedi. But I think there is an opportunity here that as they continue to tell the story, especially when it comes to Luke Skywalker, they could drop these breadcrumbs to help bridge that gap, and we have a better understanding of the audience on why Luke is Luke in The Last Jedi, which is the final moments of his life, at least the living life before he becomes a Force ghost. But could it be anybody else, Chorizy? Trust your instincts. Like, is this foreshadowing? Am I looking too much into this?
No, I think you got it. I was kind of laughing to myself when you said, like, Luke should have trusted his instincts with Ben. And like, I thought the next thing you were going to say is, and killed him in his sleep. Like, but yeah, so like, I think, to talk about Luke and how he's training there, it feels like to make a sports reference. But we're baseball podcasters, right? So like it's when you have like a really good player and then they try and be a coach, they're like almost always terrible at it. And I think that's where Luke's coming from in this. And like, also, like, I think there's just some of him wanting to know more. And like a good example of that is the scene with him and Grogu, where he's asking him about his people. Have you ever heard someone talk like Yoda talks? And then do you remember your people? And he's like, why don't I help you remember? Like, he doesn't really seem to wait for Grogu to even give an inkling of like, yes, I want to relive this. And he's just like, puts his head on his hand. He's like, show me the worst moment of your life. Right. Like, but that does lead me to this next question, which is, how did Grogu escape Order 66? And there's some theories out there, and I'm going to give you the two, and I've got arrows pointing to these things in there. One is a lot farther fetched than the other. So I'll start with that one. So there's the arrow on your left is pointing at a sign on the side there. So I assume they were in the Jedi Temple. If this sign is what people are saying it is, I don't think they are. But people are saying that it's Barriss Offee's crest. which looks like this. I'll show you what it looks like. So they're saying that is on this wall over here, and that there's a thought that she's alive, she's not in prison, she's and she's possibly the one who gets Grogu out of there. The other one is that Grogu's actually within a droid at this point. Like they've placed him inside a droid for protection, and now he can see out of the droid, and that this kind of thing at the bottom is maybe, the part of the droid, and he can see this, but when they come at him, they're actually just running right by him, and that they didn't realize he was there. So those are the main two theories. The third would be that he just killed everybody, which would be awesome, but I don't think that that's the case. What do you think about those, Josh? Do you think either one of those is possibly what happened, or do you think that it's something else? Maybe a different Jedi came and saved him, or something like that.
Well, I don't know about the first theory because she's not much of a Jedi anymore.
No, she's not. She renounced it well before. Like if you didn't watch the Clone Wars, Barisafi basically tries to sow distrust within the Jedi. She blows up. I forget what she blows up, but she kills some people. She blows something up, and she tries to frame Ahsoka Tano for it. But the whole reason behind it is that she's seeing the flaws in what the Jedi are doing and their part in the war. And like, I think her line is that the Jedi have become the villains that they've sought to fight against. And so she's done with it. This is a similar path to why Ahsoka leaves. This is like the same storyline, I should say, not the same path, but the same storyline. So she is out. She's probably supposed to be in prison. But yeah, so that would be the thing. She's somehow back, and gonna go save Grogu for some reason.
I mean, the far-fetched theory, is she one of the first Inquisitors?
Oh wow, that'd be interesting.
And they find this baby, not knowing that there is a baby version of Yoda, the most powerful Force user. Because again, going back to season 1 of The Mandalorian, the reason why Grogu is so important is that they're trying to clone, right? They're trying to grab DNA with their cloning process. And yeah, so I mean, if you have an Inquisitor deciding, oh, we're going to save this one, we have plans for this one, devious, I don't know who would save him. So I guess that's not technically saving Grogu. That's, keeping him for some other devious thing. Inside the droid, I could see maybe inside a space pod that's going to be launched into space. I could see, I do think we are going to get more insight on how Grogu comes to be in season 1 of The Mandalorian, like how he gets there. Because now, I mean, in Star Wars lore, as far as content, we're seeing this ever-growing list of Jedi who do survive Order 66. And it is a very special list of Jedi. And Grogu is now one of them that survives Order 66. So I'm curious on what with it, but I'm going to try to keep an open mind, Chorizy. I don't know if I'm going to follow either theory. And I'm just going to keep an open mind on how Grogu gets saved from Order 66. But I am very interested on how he does so, because we've seen, a few methods on how people have survived Order 66, but most of them has been go into hiding.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, like someone much like this, there's the masters defending, they get away. I think the one that we just recently saw when the Bad Batch was on was how Kanan got away, which was an awesome little addition to his story, I thought. Yeah, I think, Josh, your point is good, that like they definitely wanted to clone him. They definitely wanted they wanted something from him. So it's very possible that they just were kind of like, the Emperor was like, look, kill all the Jedi, but like, I want this one. Like, bring this one to me. Um, I, I didn't hear the whole Order 66 message, I guess, that he let out. But like, apparently there may have been a different message for what to do with Grogu, which, the Emperor's a devious mother, man. Like, so
Yeah.
I could see him wanting to do something like that. So all we do know is that Grogu did escape. Din eventually gets him, and he is a Mandalorian foundling at this point, now a Jedi Padawan. And what we saw with the armorer is now going to be mimicked by Luke, despite the existence of Tar Vizsla in this lore, who was both a Mandalorian and a Jedi. Yet another person going, can't be both. Just can't be both. So what will Grogu choose? He has to choose between that tiny, wonderful lightsaber that once belonged to Yoda. By the way, F Luke for this. For like the waving the awesome, like, he lays the thing on the ground like, you could have this junk, or you could have this cool lightsaber. Like, I really did not like the way that he presented this, but hey, he's trying to make his case. But which do you think Grogu's going to choose here?
Well, it's like going up to a kid and be like, here's a brand new bike, or here's a trip to Disney World. Like, the kid is going to be conflicted. Like, oh, the bike, I could go riding the bike now, but I also really want to go to Disney World, like, in the future. Like, I want to go there. And I get I don't know which Grogu is going to choose. I think a lot of people reading other thoughts from other writers after watching this episode, they think it's pretty clear that Grogu's going to choose the armor, because the way that Din's starship, his new starfighter, is set up, that you got the pod for Grogu. We do not hear about Grogu at all in the upcoming trilogy. I guess, and Dave and John are doing an excellent job with this. Again, Luke should have learned this lesson. Okay, it doesn't have to be absolute, right? A Sith only deals with absolutes, and the Jedi are not that much different with the Sith when it comes to attachments, right? They can distract you, but Luke had attachments. Leia is a huge attachment for Luke, and he never lets go of that until he strands himself on an island, because his other attachment, his nephew, he screws up training Ben. And maybe this is kind of leading down that path that, Luke Skywalker is not a very good teacher. And it's just armor. The way I look at it is, this is going to protect him. It doesn't matter if he's wearing, this Beskar chainmail, which is super awesome, by the way. Was that part of the betting list to go back to last week?
That was, yes. So that was the shortest odds. So, like, I think we had that at like minus 500 because they had showed the little chains. Right. I'm still bummed it's not the earrings. I thought it was going to be like the straight out of Hot Topic earrings for his ears, but alas, we're with the chainmail. I gotta admit though, I saw that little chainmail shirt, and like it brought me back to my industrial days in the 90s, man. Like, I was like, I'd wear that.
Your brother would wear that today.
That's true. He does. He likes the more buckled up industrial look. But either way, we're going to Neo and we're gonna dance all night. That's all that's happening right there. But yeah, I'm with you that I think a lot of people think he's going to take the chainmail. You know what I almost immediately thought of after I watched this was the scene in it's towards the end of the second season of The Mandalorian, when Grogu's in school and like the cookies are on that guy's desk, and
Mhm.
then like they're suddenly in his hand.
Yep.
Like, so I see him choosing the chainmail, and then like he's getting in Din's ship, and then he just like lights up the lightsaber, like, hey, look what I got. I
Yep.
stole this too.
Yep.
Like
I love that.
I want Grogu to steal. I want all the best things for that little guy. I want him to have that chainmail on when someone shoots him, and then he cuts him up with the little tiny lightsaber, Yoda style.
Yep.
I don't know. Like I just feel like he's going to do that. Like I feel like that's part of his character, right? Like he's not 100% good. He's not like, he's not always going to do the perfect right thing. Just like Din isn't, just like
Mhm.
Boba Fett isn't. Like he's flawed like them, but admittedly so, likes to steal. Luke won't admit all his flaws. He pretends like he doesn't have any. That's why Luke's a dick.
Yeah, I can't believe he's making him choose. I think so. I think initially Grogu's going to choose a lightsaber because that makes Luke happy. I am wondering in the next episode if Luke senses a great disturbance in the Force through Grogu of his loss. And again, Luke saying you must, let go of that attachment. And I'm wondering if we're going to get another sly R2D2 reference where R2 slides in and beeps and boops, and Luke just giving him a look, be like, "Shut up, jerk." I love that scene in the last Jedi. Like, what do you, Obi-Wan Kenobi? Yeah, I love that. I love that scene in the Last Jedi. So I am wondering to get this all connected, because how does Luke Skywalker connect to Boba Fett? I am wondering if Luke will take Grogu back and help Boba Fett against the Pike Syndicate, because it is Tatooine. That is his home planet. Luke has an attachment still to Tatooine. And it is something that Luke's got lessons to be learned as a Jedi Master still. And if you are going to push into this, huge universe, and if Luke Skywalker's part of it, this is a way to see Luke Skywalker more in action, which is very fan servicing. But we loved it at the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Why not watch Luke Skywalker cut up some Pike Syndicates?
Oh man, or if he does his little frog trick with all the guns, and then you got to go straight street fight, and you get that gaffy stick out there. You get Ming Na Wen just like kicking people in the face. Like that would be fun. Just get rid of all, because the guns are gonna mess up the whole fight. Like I don't want guns in this fight. I want these people to just absolutely brawl like it's in Gangs of New York in the middle of the street. Like I want that. But yeah, I mean, like I could see him going there. I could see him going there with Grogu and helping. But man, you're right. Him cutting off a Pike's head, that'd be fantastic. I don't think that's what the character they're trying to frame for Luke, but man, I want to see it. I also want to see the Darksaber go through, just like kind of like Conan the Librarian, just cut one of the Pikes in half. I want to see that for sure. Long ways,
Right.
not like he cut that other dude in half. But speaking of badasses, and some badass fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I think going. If they do bring back Luke, this could be a very interesting duel, because Cad Bane fought against Anakin Skywalker, and we talked about this. We've been hyping it up since the beginning, talking about this show, that we want to see a Cad Bane versus Fennec Shand duel. And the way they introduced Cad Bane, Chorizy, I can't think of a better way. Did you like the way that they finally introduced Cad Bane?
Oh my God. This was so awesome. And he's like 5,000 feet away at the beginning. And I was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like pointing at the screen. Like it was immediate. Like I was like, that's Cad Bane. That's Cad Bane. And like as he got closer, and like I just love that they kept the hat down to start and like focused on his mouth. and God, that was terrifying. His mouth is like the teeth and everything, just so good. I know it's missing a toothpick, but who cares? Yeah, he doesn't have to be Dusty Baker in this episode. Like and so he's got those awesome teeth. The voice is perfect, and
Mhm.
like and just like and like they made him like lighter, which makes him feel more like weathered and kind of like as old as he's supposed to be, and like it's just like, and he's got that great voice, and he's just talking at Cobb Vanth, like he's just not even listening to anything that Vanth is saying. He's just telling him how it is, um I thought that was awesome when he lifts up and you see the eyes. Just every piece of it was great. I've seen a complaint that the hat wasn't big enough. Like I don't know, they want him wearing the urban sombrero just because the hat looked bigger in the cartoon. I don't know where that came from, but like I I just loved it, and he just looks so menacing,
He
so
does.
scary. It's fantastic.
Yeah, this whole scene is awesome. And of course, he is the stranger, right? The stranger in the desert.
The stranger from the desert. I love it.
Yeah.
I I got to ask you about something though, Josh. The quote that I have up here, which is "You should have never given up your armor."
Mhm.
I think this speaks to how long the Pikes have been there and
Yes.
how long Cad Bane has been there, because he gave up his armor a long time ago, and you would have to have been around to even know about that.
Right.
Um, so it lends more to the idea that there's something more important here, and that they've been building up to try and have a hold on this planet that is maybe more resource rich than we think. So, what do you think about that? And then also, like, what did you think about Cad Bane just showing up? Like, how how incredible was it?
Oh, I agree with you. Like this is the most badass way to do it. And for those that didn't watch the Clone Wars and didn't watch Bad Batch, and this is someone new, this guy is devastating. Cad Bane is a devastating bounty hunter. So good at his job that he was able to survive going up against the Jedi. And we also talked about this in past episodes, his duel with Fennec Shand. Like we want part 2 of that duel between those two, and I think we're going to get that, and it's going to be phenomenal when we do get that, because the past relationship that he has with Fennec Shand, and there is some history with Boba Fett. This is a great way of introducing Cad Bane. You just saw Cobb Vanth come in, wipe out 3 pikes in 2 shots. This guy is a great gunslinger. Nobody out gunslings Cad Bane. No one. No one in any of the canon has ever out gunsling Cad Bane at all. So you can't fight him one-on-one like this. You will die, like the deputy did die.
Oh man, he shot him 100 times.
Didn't
I could
yeah,
not I could not get enough of that, and Cad could not get enough of shooting that guy. Like he possibly lets Cobb Vanth live, but that deputy
is
that
gone.
is Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
He put 100 rounds in that. That was awesome.
Yeah. That was awesome. I love your idea that the Pikes have been around longer than what was perceived. But then it does raise the question: how did the Hutts not know right away? Or maybe they just acted when they heard that Jabba died, and when they arrived on Tatooine, then they realized, and maybe that's why they have the quick pivot of, oh, never mind, the Pikes have been here. There's no way we're going to beat the Pike, so we're leaving the planet, and you should too. So that would make a little bit more sense on how the Hutts acted, especially in the first couple of episodes. So I'm going to subscribe to what you are pitching, Chorizy. Yes, the Pikes have been on Tatooine for a while now.
But not really. So yeah, but it makes sense that they probably weren't like so public in what they were doing, right? They're just kind of
Subtle.
they're considered the criminal underground for a reason, right? Like so
Yes.
you're trying to not be seen, while you're running spice throughout this whole place. So yeah, and let's talk a little bit about that duel. And I already teased it with the deputy got shot 4,000 times, but Cobb Vanth, he's alive, right? Like, you think he's alive? I would think so.
So watching the episode shortly before we started streaming, it looks like Vanth gets shot in the right shoulder, which is his shooting shoulder, his shooting arm. So I don't know how much fighting he's going to be able to do in the next chapter. But yeah, he gets shot in the right shoulder. So I think he will be surviving. If he got shot in the left side, I mean, that's where the heart is. So there's just no way that he would be able to survive that type of blast in that close proximity. But it's his right shoulder that gets hit. So I think Cobb Vanth is going to survive. The deputy is very dead. There's no question about that.
There's not enough of that little spray to bring the deputy back. He's basically Swiss cheese at this point, and good riddance. The guy was kind of a prick.
Yeah, and he was a distraction. Like, that was perfect timing, and they shot it so well. As soon as Cobb Vanth slightly glances over the deputy, boom! Like, that's the opening that Cad Bane just needed. Is that like half split second looking over the deputy, making sure the deputy doesn't do anything stupid, and Cobb Vanth gets shot. So without the deputy, if these two face each other again, does Cobb Vanth win? We may see in the next chapter. I'm a little bit doubtful on that, but
here's the one thing that I want in the next chapter that will just be a little bit of a payoff that Filoni can do without ever having to release this. There was an unreleased portion of the Clone Wars where Cad Bane and Boba Fett have a duel. That is where the dent in Boba Fett's helmet comes from. At least that's in that storyline. That's how that got there.
Interesting.
So I just want Cad Bane to reference it. I just want him to say something like, "Don't make me put another dent in that helmet," or something like that. Like something. He'll say it in a way that was far more badass than what I just said. But like, I think that could be like a really cool callback. And then maybe at that point, Cobb Vanth walks in and he's like, "Why don't you take another shot at me?" And we have that showdown. I think that could be really good. I don't know. I just want that payoff of like, I want them to get back to that being like the dent in his helmet is from Cad Bane, just because they never got to do it. Like, it's just something they never got to put into canon.
I could see that. I could see that. And I wonder if he starts trash talking Boba Fett, if that's when Fennec Shan like steps from behind Boba Fett and steps up to Cad Bane and we get our duel that way. I can't wait. I know I've been hyping this up since the very beginning of this series. I was hoping that we would see this with Fennec Shan. I wanted to see Cad Bane in this series. And now that Cad Bane is here, for those that don't know, this is going to be awesome. The Fennec Shan and Cad Bane duel and their fight is going to be awesome.
And so we know, Josh, that war is coming, right? Like, so
yeah,
it's upon us. Episode 7 is going to have to be this war. The Pikes go in and they blow up the sanctuary. Max Rebo was not there. For anybody who was watching that episode, you might have noticed that the band was playing, but instead of Max Rebo, they had another guy from Figure and Dan's band playing his little flute thing. That guy is dead. Max Rebo is alive. So we could all rejoice in that. Rebo lives another day. But the sanctuary was blown up. And I think that's under Boba's protection, right? That's supposed to be his,
yes.
He's keeping them safe, and he didn't. He's failed them. So now what's going to happen? And I think it's going to have to be them going to war with the Pikes. The interesting thing here is that it might have forced Boba's hand to go at them, as opposed to waiting for this war to happen and sitting and trying to amass his army. He now has to take action. We're talking, this is like deep cover. They shot his girl. He's got to go kill that guy. right? There's no other way about it. So Boba's hand is forced, but Josh, who's this army going to be? Who's going to show up?
I don't know. That's a great question. And I think this is a fight that Boba Fett is destined to lose. And maybe this is how the Book of Boba Fett ends, is that he loses this war against the Pike Syndicate. But you're right, because it's been hinted along the way that no one really respects Boba Fett. They don't trust him to protect Boba Fett. And with the sanctuary being blown up, there's going to be less trust, right? From
Right.
Mos Espa. You can't protect us. No one can protect us. And it may just cause more chaos. So I don't know if he can win with what he's got on hand right now. Like Fennec Shen is awesome. Din is obviously awesome. The mods, I don't think are enough muscle. And I don't know. And this could make for, great viewing. I don't know how Boba Fett wins this. I am looking forward to, and I have some ideas on how they can end as far as this season. But yeah, I don't know, because he doesn't have much of an army now, unless he's going to use the people of Freetown who want revenge of Cobb Vanth getting shot and their poor, sweet deputy getting murked. Maybe that's the army, but I don't know if that's enough to beat the Pikes.
Well, there's a hint in this episode.
Okay.
He does go to Freetown to get them. He does mention not just them, but that they fought alongside the Tusken Raiders. They also show that gigantic ass crate dragon skull on the sandcrawler that the Jawas have. I think he's not only gone to talk to the people of Freetown. I think that's the only people that gave him any resistance. I think the Tuskens would be in, especially if they know anything about what's gone on with the other Tusken group. They don't have to know that Boba Fett was involved. They just have to know that this other group of Tuskens got killed by the what looks like the Pikes. And then, man, I'm telling you, I gotta see this. It just has to happen. The Jawas have to be involved. And so let me lay this out. Let me lay this out.
Army.
This is wild, but let me just kind of lay this out, right? Like, you've got the Pikes, and then Boba's ragtag kind of army rolling up. You don't have the Freetown people. You don't have the Tuskens yet, but you just kind of see a sandcrawler in the distance that no one's paying attention to. And it just unloads Boba's army, like of Tuskens and Freetown people. And then it's just this massive fight. And I want the Jawas to be involved a little bit. Like, I want them shooting from afar or something. Like, I just need it. I just need these little guys to be they got to show out for Peli, right? Like, they're trying to get some love too. So there's more reason for them. But them pointing at Din as he flew by at least shows some connection there. Like, they despite his previous run-ins with Jawas, these ones seem to like him. So I kind of want them to be involved. I kind of want it to be kind of like a town uprising against a force that's trying to take them over.
I like this. I like this. So how do you think this ends, this series? Because is there going to be a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett, or is this it? Just one season?
They've not said that there's going to be. And this was always tagged as Mandalorian season 2.5, right?
Yeah.
Like, from the very beginning when they announced this. So I don't know. I don't think that there's going to be. There's part of me that thinks Boba Fett is going to die, or that he's going to choose to not continue to be in charge of this kind of criminal syndicate. Like, that he's going to go a different path. And I think that might, as much as I love your Darksaber ending with Thrawn's hand getting on the Darksaber, I think that we might end up in a situation where we show what's going on in Freetown that's in the books but not in the show, and that there's a young Hutt there that they've been keeping. So that I think I put that in the first blog that I wrote about who I wanted to see in live action, and it was the Hutt. One of them was the Hutt that is in Freetown. They have not made any reference to this, but I assume that even if they have it, they're being very secretive about that. So it's possible that that's how this kind of story concludes, where this new Hutt is going to take the reign for Jabba in the end.
All right. So 2 theories. Still sticking with my theory that we're going to see Thrawn. Like maybe the blue hand at the end.
I love that.
At the end. The other that I think is picking up steam online is if Bubba does win and the Pikes go back to report, I'm wondering if we're going to get Kira and Crimson Dawn at the very, very end, because you need something at the end of this series to tease season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Or maybe tease another show. We weren't expecting the Book of Boba Fett to be announced until we saw the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So we've been in for huge surprises the last couple of weeks, Chorizy. We're due for more surprises in this chapter 7 on Wednesday. And I can't wait for Wednesday. The one thing I do have to say is that the directing as of late has been very good. There has been some criticism of Robert Rodriguez's work, and that he is the weak link right now as far as the directors that they have used for Book of Boba Fett. But the one thing that Robert Rodriguez is awesome at doing is action. So I think you're going right into his wheelhouse and the type of episode that we're going to see. And I have a lot of confidence Robert Rodriguez is going to do an excellent job.
Oh yeah, with a war scene, like yes, this is gonna be amazing. When Boba Fett kills Cad Bane with a gaffy stick, it's going to be every bit as gory as you want it to be, even though it's Disney Plus. But yeah, so I could see the Kira thing at the end, and would maybe that tease what everybody's wanted, in at least in my mind, and probably not in reality, which is the Solo TV show. I know that has been the movie is not well loved, I would say, but I enjoy it. But I think that could be a really good TV show. I know there's supposed to be a Lando show, right? Like, I think there was supposed to be a Lando show. So maybe this is all maybe that interweaves with the Kira stuff, and then we get more of the criminal underground, more of the smuggling and things like that that goes on, and what Solo's like after
Return of the Jedi.
After Return of the Jedi,
who would play him? Or are they going to?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, Lucasfilm, by the way, is showing off. The CGI work on Luke Skywalker is phenomenal. It absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure there are some that are like, well, I mean, I wish I had this technology a few years ago for the Rise of Skywalker, even though that would have been a bit jarring to see Carrie Fisher CGI to play Princess Leia, because Mark Hamill is still alive. But if they go in that direction, I guess I wouldn't mind it. But I also thought they should have just recasted Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I don't want a full like CGI Han Solo show, right? I think maybe it's more of a Kira show, and they flash back to them younger. And then that's I forget his name, the guy that was in Solo. You could use him as the young version. Sure. I don't see why you wouldn't do that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see. The end credit is going to be very interesting, if there is one.
If there's got to be one. I got a good feeling there's going to be one.
Well, all right, man. I'm going to cut it here. I think we've gotten into quite a bit of this, and man, I'm with you. I cannot wait for Wednesday. It's going to be wild. And then I can't wait to talk to you about it next weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably watch chapter 7 like 5 times. But let me go
Absolutely.
rewatch chapter 6 again because it's phenomenal. And we'll definitely chat next week, guys. And I can't wait for Wednesday.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, Josh. Thanks to everyone in the comments. Had a great time. Hope you guys tune in Wednesday and then tune in with us next Saturday. Talk to you soon.